Hi everyone, my name is Emmy. Welcome to my channel. So as you can tell from the title of this video, I'm just gonna do a short book review of Pope Francis's autobiography called Hope. As of recording, right now Pope Francis is in a critical condition. So, okay, I wasn't gonna do a book review of this autobiography because I don't really like doing book reviews of autobiographies, honestly, but especially because it's a Pope and he holds such a special place in my heart as a Catholic. So, but I just thought because of what's happening right now, I read on social media a lot of prayers and thoughts directed to Pope Francis, but I also read a lot of negative comments about him. So I was thinking to myself, if only more people would read his autobiography, it would really explain a lot of why he thinks the way he does. And even if you're anti-Catholic, you're not a Christian, this is still a great read about a great person. So if you're not into book reviews, like watching book review videos, and you just want to stop right here, I just want to say this book is 5 out of 5 stars. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be talking about right now. Hopefully not too long, but yeah, so I'll just start off with goodness, look at all the tabs. So the book starts off with Pope Francis talking about his grandfather, grandmother, and father, how they came from Italy to Argentina. And yeah, it actually, the big chunk of the beginning of the book talked about their experiences, and it really showed, well, to me anyways, it really explained why Pope Francis, his stance on immigration is the way it is, because of what his ancestors went through. And there's also a lot of anti-war rhetoric in the beginning of the book, and it really, his experience actually would really explain why. Okay, so I'm gonna try to make this short, like I said. So it talks about his childhood, and then also then it goes to his schooling and his path when he got the calling to priesthood, and also talks about his education, like all those. A lot of people will probably know this already if you even just read his Wikipedia page. But yeah, so but for me, I didn't really know much about Pope Francis before this book in terms of his personal background. So that was still a great read for me. It was all new to me about how he wanted to be a butcher at one point, and how he loves soccer and all that. And then it talks about his education. Okay, page 99. Yeah, so 1950, he began his studies at the Escuela Técnica Especializada en Industrias Químicas in Calle Goya. And then in that school, by the 4th year, because it's a very scientific, like science focused school, so by the 4th year, aside from the education, they also have a training part, either in a factory or a lab. And he ended up choosing lab work, and that's where he met one of the greatest influences in his life, which ended also, to me, like this book, there's actually 2 of them that really influenced Pope Francis, and I want to find out about them more. The one I'm talking about right now is let me see, Esther, let me see her full name. Esther Balestrino de Carriaga, a biomedical pharmaceutical researcher who, among the flasks, reagents, and microscopes, taught me not just about work, but about the meticulous care that was an essential part of it. So there's a part that talks about Esther, and it's just really amazing how she's, I don't want to give out too much, but she was a big influence on Pope Francis, that even by after her death, like I think he still keeps in touch with one of her remaining children presently. Okay, yeah, she's very active, basically. Oh my gosh, let me see here. Esther Balestino de Cariaga was an extraordinary woman. I was very fond of her. With the start of the Guerra Sucia, Argentina's violent program of repression that stamped out any form of dissent in cultural, political, social, trade union, or university circles, the news began to tighten around her. So that's how she ended up being kidnapped, I believe. Yeah, okay. So just like that was also a great part of this book, talking about her. And then another character, I shouldn't say character, but another person was Monsignor Angelelli, page 125. Let me see. That's another figure that really had a big influence on Pope Francis as well. Let me see, page 125. If you guys have the book and have read it, you can read along with me. Let me see here. Do I have it right? Angelelli was actually one of the bishops killed. A lot of during the time that Pope Francis was in Argentina, there's a lot of political turmoil and stuff like that. So, yeah. So was he also kidnapped as well? He was brutally killed on August 4th, 1976, on his return from El Camical, where he had celebrated Mass in memory of the two priests and a layman who were among his closest collaborators. So, yeah. Okay, and then aside from that, aside from talking about the people that influenced him, there's also a part here that talked about Pope Francis's experience in the seminary, and there's a part here where he actually got really ill, which just reminds me of what's happening to him right now. He's always had lung problems. So in the seminary he got ill, and then it got serious, so they ended up actually having to send him home. And okay, here at the end of October, the doctor told me I had 3 large cysts on the lung, and it was essential to have a surgery as soon as possible. Then he did end up having the surgery. They cut away the upper lobe of the right lung. The operation was successful, but the period of suffering was not over yet. So there's a part here on page 141. It's yeah, so I'll just read it to you. Pain is not a virtue, but the way in which it is experienced can be virtuous. Our calling is fulfillment and happiness, and pain is a limitation in this quest. For this reason, the sense of personal pain is truly understood through the suffering of God who became man, Christ. Every attempt to relieve pain will achieve only partial results unless it is founded in transcendence. And then he talks here, when I finally left the hospital, the choice had been made. I would enter the Society of Jesus as a novice. So for those of you who don't know, Pope Francis was in the Jesuit Catholic order before becoming a pope. And yeah, so the thing was, before I read this, I actually ended up just reading this book, The Jesuits, History and Legend of the Society of Jesus by Manfred Barthel. So I thought it was a good read before this, that I read this, because it just gave me more of a background about the Society of Jesus. So yeah, so aside from that, so it talks about just basically his journey to becoming a pope as well. He talked about his experience during the conclave, and it was really great to see it from his perspective. I have to admit, like, you know, this is stuff that, you know, as a Catholic I wanted to know but didn't before, right? So it's from his POV. It was really a great read. And then he also talks about his love for literature here. So there's a part where he talked about the Aeneid. If you haven't read that, yeah, I recommend the Iliad, Odyssey, and the Aeneid. Actually, I didn't like as much, but Pope Francis really loved it. And then he talked about Dostoevsky, how he loved Dostoevsky as well. And then aside from that, he talked about his stance on women in church, forgiveness, the LGBTQ, Latin Mass. And I know there's been a bit of controversy about that, but I still think you should read this book, because a lot of what's being quoted in the media, I think, was just taken out of context. So just read it. Just read the book so you'll know fully what he thinks about all these topics. He even talked about AI. So let me see here about forgiveness. There's There's a quote here that I really like too. Okay, here. And this is the one on forgiveness. We children get up to all kinds of things. We make mistakes. We sin. But when we ask for pardon, God's mercy embraces us and forgives us always. He never tires of embracing and forgiving us, and He changes us. It is we who sometimes grow tired of asking for pardon. I am a sinner like everyone else. Okay. There's like a lot. There's a lot of wonderful quotes here that I'll be rereading this book for sure. And then page 262. Oh, this is the funny part because he talks, I call them dad jokes, right? But there's a joke here about Pope John Paul II, which I thought was really funny. And this was when in the conclave when Pope John Paul II was before he was to be voted in as a pope. In the preliminary sessions of the conclave, when he was still a cardinal, an older and rather severe cardinal went to rebuke Pope John Paul II because he went skiing, climbed mountains, went cycling, swimming. I don't think they are activities fitting to your role, he suggested, at which the future pope replied, but do you know that in Poland these are activities practiced by at least 50% of cardinals. In Poland at the time there were only 2 cardinals. I thought that was so funny. Yeah, so page 262 and 263, though, they're actually like funny jokes. So yeah, I really love this book. And like I said, even if you're not a Catholic, this is still a great read about a great person, you know. And it's hard to like when someone talks about their achievements and what they've done in their life, you know, sometimes it's like, oh, you know, it sounds like he's bragging, and you feel like, oh, you know, like how can someone do that if you're like a holy person? But with Pope Francis's book, it doesn't even sound like that. Like, he's just literally talking about what he went through. He's so humble and really such a great inspiration to everyone. So before I end off this this review, not too long, I don't think, yes. So I just want to read this last part to you. For we Christians, the future has a name, and this name is hope. To have hope doesn't mean being naive optimists who ignore the tragedy of human evil. Hope is the virtue of a heart that doesn't close itself in the dark, doesn't stop at the past, doesn't scrape along in the present, but can clearly see tomorrow. Restless and joyous, this is how we Christians must be. So yeah, so like I said, this is a book that I highly recommend. And if you want to know more about Pope Francis, there's really no other greater resource than from his own mouth, right? So yeah, so that is it. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to comment down below. Thank you again to all those who have subscribed. And I know I'm just a small channel. I don't even know who will be seeing this video. But if you do see it and you've read the book, please let me know. And if by any chance, you know, like I said, if you're anti-Catholic or anti-Christian, whatever, like I never I welcome all comments as long as they're I've never deleted any comment on my channel except for one that YouTube actually held on. I didn't even see this comment, but it was kind of so heinous, like that's the only time I've ever deleted a comment. But I welcome any comments as long as they're done with respect. So that's all I'm gonna say. All right, thank you, and God bless wherever you are praying for Pope Francis right now.